Hello everyone, I hope you've been well and welcome back. I'm going to do a bit of a Cosplay 2022 wrap up today. I've just made a few questions that I'll be answering and having a bit of a look down memory lane of all of my costumes from this year. I'm actually a little bit surprised as I was putting everything together, all the collages, I was like, wow, I've actually done quite a few costumes. I think last year I was still recovering a little bit, so I know a lot of my plans were kind of pushed back or I didn't do quite as much as I wanted to, so I went very extra this year, especially around Halloween, as you would have seen with all my Halloween videos, so that definitely upped the count a little bit. But I did a lot of reusing of certain things and items and previous things I've bought or made, which is really nice as well. I think that's definitely going to be one of my goals for next year, is trying to continue to thrift lots of pieces, but also just reusing things I already have, whether I use it for other costumes or even just original looks too. Without further ado, let's hop into it, and the first question is, how many cosplays have you done this year? Alright, so I have done 16 costumes that I took photo shoots at locations, and then I did 18 costumes where I just took my own portrait photos. Some of those were more kind of full costumes, some of those were just quick tests or trying out a kind of original character look. I'll put them up on the screen here, but there is quite a few. So we have Riker from Star Trek, Kate Bishop, a Superman look, Grogu from The Mandalorian, Moonshine from NADPOD. I did another Siri look. And then for Halloween, I did Arwen from Lord of the Rings, Padme, Spike from Buffy, and then I also did Princess Buttercup from The Princess Bride. Next, we also have Dream, we have Yelena, Kratos, and then we've got Paul from June, and then Connor, and then Shazam was the final photo shoot I did. I actually am partway through another Dream costume. I have a feeling I won't finish it this year, but that's going to be finished very early next year, which I'm super keen for. Alright, in terms of shoots within my room, that were a little bit more simple, but I still had lots of fun with, we have Lilu from The Fifth Element, we have another version of Kirk, which was his Mirrorverse version, Morticia, Raven, Marika from Elden Ring. I've got a quick test of Frank that I did, Punisher. I've got Connor, Arcane 900. I did a test finally of my own D&D character Rain, which was really cool. I've got Alex Straza from World of Warcraft. I just wanted to take some more photos of the armor. Got Higgs from Death Stranding, a female Nightwing, Stargirl, my Aloy, which was an original costume someone else had designed, which was a crazy costume. I've got a few original looks as well, so I've got kind of a Viking, a Druid Faun, and then the kind of Moon Goddess, and then I also did a Battle Damage Padme. So as you can see, it was a large variety of costumes. It's interesting seeing how my different love of different genres show up in my costumes, because you've got classic superheroes, you've got some more of those like original inspired characters with Viking looks or Druid looks, and then you've just got my love of like D&D or games or fantasy as well. So it's always fun kind of seeing a wrap up of everything I was really into that year. Definitely a lot of the costumes, especially the second half of the year, were things that either been on my list for a really long time and I needed to finally do it, or just pieces that I've had for like a year or two that I've just kind of say, oh, one day I'll shoot that, and then I finally got around to shooting them this year. Alright, question number 2 is, which one is my favourite? Which is like the hardest thing. It's like picking a favourite book, but it's probably going to have to be my Paul Atreides look, my June costume. Because it was such... It wasn't necessarily rushed, because it did take me a bit of time to do it still, but it was very much a, hey, if I've got a spare couple of days, and you know, it's a relatively inexpensive costume, I just used a lot of foam, thrifted things that I needed, like the jacket and pants and whatnot, and so it was essentially a really cheap costume. It just took a little bit of effort doing all the detailing, but I just adored how it turned out, and I think being able to just like dry brush that sandy look on the armor was so much fun. The photo shoot was so perfect. It was went down to the beach, was like, okay, are we even going to be able to get any like dune inspired shots, just because we don't really have sand dunes close by, but the mountains, the rocks, they were perfect. So it was just an utter dream come true. Absolutely loved it. Number 3 is my most worn costume this year, and it definitely goes to Kratos. I actually debuted my female version of Kratos at a Viking fair, which was so much fun. And then I wore it to Supernova, and then I also wore it for a photo shoot as well. I actually would love to do one more cosplay of him where I just literally cover the entire costume in blood or, red paint. But yeah, we'll have to do that at some point when I'm not working as much, because that red paint definitely stains a little bit. Number 4 is a new skill you've learnt this year in regards to cosplay. I think it was definitely honing a few more skills in terms of like sewing, but I think the big thing for me is that I really loved how a lot of my like bedroom portrait shoots turned out. I have a really, really tiny space that I work with, and so it does take a little bit of extra editing or lighting or fun filters and effects I can put in afterwards, but I really feel like I had quite a diverse photos, and you would have seen at the start of this video, just changing up backgrounds, adding accessories, poses, lighting, all of that can really change, and I feel like each year I improve on that just a little bit more. I love taking photos. My dad takes most of my location shoot photos, and they're fantastic, but it's quite nice to just have full control over everything, take my time, try posing, all of that. So though I'm working with a smaller environment, it can be quite nice to express and try out different bits and pieces, and I feel like those photos really show a big improvement, especially from a couple of years ago. Number 5 is my favourite event from this year. I think it probably would have to be... We did 2 kind of medieval fairs this year, one in the Barossa and one at Victor Harbour, and so that was the first time going to a fair, so both of those were fantastic. I think I especially loved the Viking fair because I actually got to go axe throwing as Kratos, which was just the coolest thing. I also bought like a really cool sword and this stunning bow and arrow, so I think... yeah, just that whole event, even though it was a bit of a warmer day, like it was just stunning, and I love being around just that like medieval vibe that you get from it, from the people, the vendors, everything like that. Number 6 is my favourite cosplay moment. This is another hard one, and I could say many, but I think just because I did it more recently is I finally shot my Connor and RK900 from Detroit Become Human. I think the reason that was probably my favourite is that nowadays I don't tend to do as many like full cosplay tests before I take photos. Like when I first started, I would do lots of makeup tests and try everything and do all of that, and although I'd certainly try pieces together, it's a lot of the time getting like the full wig, makeup, costume isn't until the photo shoot. So I think I was a little bit nervous, and it is literally one of my favourite games, so I think I was like, oh gosh, is this just gonna look silly? Am I all hyped for no reason? But I actually loved how the photos turned out. I loved posing for them, and because they're similar characters but there's just slight differences between them, I loved letting like lighting or just like slight facial expressions kind of depict their different personalities, and that was just such a dream come true. I've actually had both their costumes I think since late last year, so finally doing it as well. I'm kind of glad I waited too. I was actually doing a replay of the game, so I was super in the mood for it. So yeah, it was just a really special experience to finally do that for those 2 characters. Number 7 is my favourite prop from this year. I'm going to be very cheeky. I'm actually going to talk about 3 things. The first one is my little gold mask here. This is for my Higgs costume. Huge Death Stranding fan. We love a good villain. And this mask is just something... oh, it's just creepy but cool but fascinating, all of the above. Well, I actually bought the base online. Someone else 3D printed it for me. I had to repair it a little bit when it came in the mail, unfortunately, but I really love the paint job. I really loved wearing it. I, of course, have to talk about this lovely little guy. This is my dream helm. Again, I actually bought the base online purely because I didn't particularly want to work out all of the kind of proportions, but then I went ahead and pretty much cut it apart, stuck it back together, repainted it, added foam clay for some of the little bones here, but I really love how it turned out. I think it looks great in photos, and like this thing is just so damn creepy, but also amazing. And if that doesn't sum up the Sandman. And then the last one is actually just this little shoulder guy here. This was for my moonshine costume. I just loved how this turned out. It was just kind of I feel like my moonshine costume was just kind of adding things until I was happy, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make some little shoulders just to kind of fill out this space a bit more. So I have the wood texture on the foam. They made like a bunch of these mini little mushrooms. I just think this is such a cute little thing. Then I've put some of that fake grass moss around it as well. But yeah, I just really loved how they turned out, and it makes me just want to do like a full druid set of armor maybe one day, but I just love how these ones are. Number 8 is my most challenging build this year, and it was definitely my Aloy costume. I did like a sawtooth inspired look. It's by this stunning artist. I've done a video about it before. While I love the photos I took, I think that costume was very much the idea of it, the drawing of it is everything I love. Translating it to real life was a little bit trickier. Probably didn't use the best fabric choices, which was my own thing, but it's also just, it's such, you know, not being a game character, it's such an intense costume, and when you have that many layers, like there's not a lot you can do except look a little bit bulky in it, and then adding on the armor as well. So though I love the photos I took and I'm glad I did it, originally I was going to do like an extra weapon and then do some kind of location shoots. I ended up not doing that. Maybe I will revisit it in a while, but for now I'm quite happy with just those portrait shots, just because it is such a hard costume to wear. Making every single detail, figuring how to attach stuff, like it is loaded up in stuff, which I love, and I think it photographs well. It is not comfy to wear, and it is so dang hot. So it doesn't super suit the Australian environment. Maybe in the snow. If I ever travel to the snow, I think it would be perfect, but for here, not so much. Number 9 is a dream costume and also a dream photo shoot for next year. I definitely have lots of ideas. I think the first costume I'm really keen for is to do a Jason Todd version, kind of like I did with Nightwing, so it's a bit of a femme version, bit of a mixture of like TV and comic styles and everything. I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do, and I think I've been talking about it since I did my Nightwing, so I'm just really excited to do that, and then, I don't know, maybe I'll do some of the other Robins, we'll see. In terms of a dream photo shoot, I'm pretty lucky. Dad is he's very good, and he kind of goes with my whims, so I've kind of ticked off a lot of my dream photo shoots. I think one we had kind of loosely discussed, but who knows if we will actually get around to it, is I would love to do like a sunrise shoot at the beach. And then I couldn't help but think of like a Galadriel cosplay. There's this lovely version I am planning to do next year with her chest plate, which is this stunning one. And I just think the blowing wind, the ocean, the sunrise, like wouldn't that be perfect? But whew, that would be an adventure, so hopefully we'll have to see. Number 10 and the final question is there any new skill you want to learn next year? I can't think of anything specifically new, but I think one thing I would like to do is to actually make an entire original look. What I tend to do is if I am doing like, you know, whether it's a Viking look or if I'm doing a fantasy or sci-fi, I'll kind of thrift shop things and I'll reuse pieces, which is fantastic. I love that. But I would really love to just completely sew up a brand new costume. I've got some stunning fabric that I just am dying to use to create kind of like a corset vest, you know, have the cape, have everything. So I think that's probably a new skill, and that's gonna, my sewing is very hit or miss. I tend to wing a lot of it, and while I've gotten pretty good at it, I must admit, for things that are very structured, I still need to take a bit more time, so I'd love to really take my time with it, not rush it, and just create a beautiful original look next year. Alrighty, and there is my little wrap up. I hope you enjoyed having a bit of a listen. You're more than welcome to answer the questions yourself as well. It's been a really lovely year of cosplaying, and thank you so much for all the love and support. Especially on my Patreon as well. It's been really fun being able to kind of share everything without like flooding starting Instagram or anything like that. I really look forward to making new costumes next year. I think one thing I'm going to do is not plan ahead as much as I necessarily did. I feel like every time I finished a costume, I already had another one in the works, or I was already planning the next one. And while I have some ideas for next year, I think I'm going to leave it a little bit more open. I certainly don't feel the need to kind of rush out a lot more costumes like I did this year just because I couldn't last year. So I'm going to take it a little bit slower, have a bit more fun with it. But I look forward to sharing that with you. If there's anything you'd like to see, whether it's builds or time lapses or just breakdowns of costumes, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just continue having a little bit of fun with this channel. Alright, until next year, which is really crazy. Have a good one. See you.